feedback I've gotten over the years from attendees is that while the material is powerful and it impacts their businesses, they just don't get enough. So they say to me, if only we could spend more time with you and the other presenters and really pick your brain, absorb the knowledge that you have to share, and get hands-on training. So to satisfy this need, I created Success GPS programs.
If you're here, it's because you want to succeed.
Being the fact that it's a hands-on workshop, we are getting a ton of value in terms of gaining more clarity for our business and approaching ways to wow the clients and customers that we do have.
Some of the Success GPS events are short, single-day experiences, a couple of hours, but our premier event is an extended, hands-on, experiential retreat. Business owners can come, spend 3 full days locked down and learning everything they need to know to be successful in business and in life.
Everybody up, I'll come out and get you. You over there too, up, up, up. See, if you already sit down, then you've already flunked, which means you've already given up.
Industry leaders that are here today that are so authentic and passionate about being of service to others. It sort of opens my heart and my mind to being really possible and staying on the right track.
I've spent 25 years listening to thousands of speakers, looking for the best of the best. Of all these, I handpicked this lineup of amazing speakers because I knew that they would bring it and that they would put it all on the line with their heart and soul to create an amazing experience for our attendees. In addition, all of the presenters are passionate about helping small businesses and entrepreneurs succeed and take the time on and off the stage for every attendee to get what they need to go to that next level. So I say show up, follow up, and lift up. Give back and don't ever, I don't care where you are in life, if you think you haven't arrived somewhere to where you can't give something back, you're wrong. It's the exact opposite. The minute you start stepping, bring someone with you.
Don't even hesitate, get here, do it. Be here, be the first one signed up, sit in the front row, get all the information. And it will be mind-blowing. It'll just be, it's a game changer to be here. It's just a game changer.
So don't miss the experience live and in person. Go to register at successgpsseminars.com for our upcoming event. And in the meantime, get ready to be inspired.
How we doing? All right, ready to get started? All right, so let's see, show of hands. How many of you think you're innovators? Wow, look at that. Reno rocks, that's like 50%. So how many of you on any given day, week, month, use a product or a service and you say, God, that could be done better. Imagine if it was like this and you start iterating and thinking about it. Anyone? Okay, 100%. So the only difference between being an innovator and someone with an idea, if you have an idea and you do something with it, you tell someone else, you engage with them and you get them to work with you on it and maybe even form a business around it, then you're an innovator. So you just have to take those ideas and do something with it. So all of you have those ideas. And, when we think about starting businesses or, doing something to disrupt what's out there today, it's one of two things. It's either it's never been done before, and we've seen many examples. We get Uber and Airbnb and all kinds of businesses, Facebook, that just were the first to get out and do something. But the majority are ones where something's out there and you're just finding a better way to do it. And so then it's execution, right? So the talk that I wanted to sort of start with here is these I call them pillars for achieving small business or startup success. This is really born out of, so I'll tell you where Constant Contact is today, and I'm going to go back, kind of to the beginning. So Constant Contact has 650,000 customers, 1,500 employees. We had 8,000 sort of channel partners. We went public about in 2007, and then a year ago we sold for 1.1 billion. Right. All right, thank you. Thanks, Mom. And so I tell that because there was a long journey. There were a lot of amazing people that came in to help in executing that sort of original sort of vision and idea. But let's think about when we started. There are 3 of us in an attic, right? So 3 people, 2 techies and me, and we were setting out to do something. And so I'm going to take you through sort of these pillars wrap around some of the things. What did we do when we were sort of scrappy in those early days, when we had, we didn't have any, people, team. We didn't have any resources. We didn't have any money. We didn't have a product. We had a PowerPoint. We didn't have customers. We didn't have anything. And so what did we do to kind of start that journey? So we're going to kind of start from the attic and talk, the talk that sort of lives there. But in a given year, I talk to thousands of small businesses and startups around the world. I spend about half my time going out and speaking to audiences and trying to give back and empower them with lessons learned from that experience. But I'm also learning from working with them, plus having started some other things, what are the lessons learned, throughout. So that's sort of the premise of sort of the talk here. So I'll just take a minute, just a little bit about myself. So I have co-founded several things, Constant Contact being one of them that most people know. How many are familiar with Constant Contact? Anyone using it? Thank you. Thanks. That's my aunt right there. And how many are actually using it? All right. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. But so starting businesses and startups, and small businesses, it's in my DNA. So whether I'm doing it or I'm helping someone else do it. And I really work hard to try to get back and see what I could do to get the light to go off or see the eyes wide open when, someone's working on an idea and I'm trying to sort of help them through that. I'm also, as I mentioned, advisor, mentor, judge, speaker, national levels down to local, and just working with, again, small businesses and startups to go to bring that idea forward. I am an angel investor, a limited partner in a venture fund. So I look at tech investments all the time, mostly on the East Coast, and making investments through I'm a limited partner in this fund that we're now raising our second fund and had some success over the last 3 years. And then for fun, I'm a drummer. So I'm supposed to tell you Sunday night we'll be at Brew Brothers. I'll be jumping up with Toby Keith's house band at Brew Brothers Sunday night. So if anyone wants to come out and hear some and have some fun. And I'm also a sailor, so I love to be on the water. And I haven't figured out how to get a drum set on a sailboat when it's keeled and be able to play to a song. So any engineers in the room, we can talk at the break, okay? I'm going to need help. That's a tough one. So, and then of course we all have that one person that we go to where we share our ideas and we just want them to listen. We don't necessarily always want advice. So this is my guy Bandit, and he listens to me about 8 hours a day. So, and he just turns his head. I'm waiting for the advice moment. It's coming. All right, so let's dive in. So the first pillar is really around setting your guardrails. And this is really around kind of what's your core business. So how many sitting here really understand what's that one core thing they're going to do in the business that if they nail it, it's going to bring them all those things like getting customers, getting revenue, allow you to hire others and so forth. So how many have that one core thing, you've kind of nailed what that is? Okay, about 2%, 3%. That's okay, no wrong answers. It's really important to figure out what that is because we're also, when we start, we're wide-eyed to say, okay, who's our target market? So how defined are we in really knowing that target market? And then what are we going to do to help that target market? So what are we bringing to the market to assist them? And so if you can figure out that one thing, it's going to bring a lot to you. But what happens is we get wide-eyed and say we're going to do all these things for our target market. And then you don't get that focus and you can't accomplish all those things, especially in the early days. Make sense? And so in the case of Constant Contact, when we started, if we actually had a bicycle wheel, every single spoke on the wheel was another idea of what we were going to do to help small business. So we had, the grand plan. We're going to do it all. And we got some great advice, some from early mentors and folks in the industry that, said you got to, figure out, you got to focus. What's that one thing? And so for us, it was email marketing, which that was that first thing we were going to do to help small businesses. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get into the talk. But you might, as sort of the guardrails of lanes on a highway, you're going to pick a lane, you're going to stay in that lane, you're going to kind of execute on it. You might widen the lane and find how you broaden who your target market might be, offering, pretty much the same offering to another audience with maybe minor tweaks. You might add new lanes to that highway, which will be new things that are sort of separate from the core. So maybe adjacent, but maybe different. But that has to come in time when you have resources and money and can devote time to testing new things. So while you're on this journey, you might get off the highway, you might switch lanes, you might switch highways. A lot of things are going to happen as you're learning from this target market that you're working with and what resonates and what works for them to decide what what you'll sort of be going to market with or tweaking to go to market with in the future. If you don't figure out the core, and I'll tell you, I meet hundreds a year of startups where there's somebody who's so passionate about what they're doing, and they're going to solve all those world's problems, and they will not get off that. And if you don't, this is your highway. Okay? So you want to avoid that, because you're not going to get very far. Make sense? All right. So the next one is sort of testing and investing. So now we know our target market. We know the core thing that we're going to bring to market. And now we're going to get out and test it. And there's a lot of things you can do to test your sort of your messaging, how you're actually going to go to market, where they're going to find you and how are they going to interact with you, what's the messaging going to deliver to them. There's a lot of things that come into play. Those are just some examples. But the key thing is figuring out, for example, everyone builds their website. You work so hard to get it launched, and you're like, okay, deep breath, we're done. The bottom line is the minute you launch it, you just got started. Because you're going to have to figure out, is it resonating with people? And there are a lot of tools that will tell you, how many are coming to the site and leaving right away. Within 2 seconds, how many leave? And if you have a higher than normal abandonment rate, then maybe it's not resonating with them when they get there, or where they came from. They might have searched on Google for a certain keyword and they got there and it was something completely different. So it has you thinking about, well, maybe we should test different messaging and see what resonates. And that's everything from, your elevator pitch. When someone says, oh, so what do you do? You'll give them a kind of that, minute, 30 second to a minute kind of overview of what you're doing. But that, you may switch that, and it may switch by audience. So if you're talking to, someone who's a potential customer, maybe a potential partner, maybe a potential investor, like that is going to switch just a little bit. And so those are some of the things you have to test to see what will resonate. Because the message you might deliver to a customer may not work well for a partner or a possible investor or maybe even an employee. Like, thinking about kind of who you're, sort of speaking with. And as you test these things, you'll see what works and actually what resonated better than maybe the messaging you had before based on performance. And are we getting more people kind of into the funnel and staying, spending more time with us, potentially converting better and into being customers. So it's really thinking about what are those different things that you can do sort of testing and then adjust. And messaging is just one example. Website, any of your copy. It's really key to sort of nail all those things and then figure out what will increase your conversions. Make sense? So the next one is around kind of being metric driven. So all the things we do online, you can easily put hooks in to capture what's happening, right? So you can put in hooks to for your website to see who's coming and how long are they staying and what pages are they starting from, what are they going to, and where are they leaving, and all of those things. Any of the digital advertising and marketing that you're doing, you can be tracking kind of all those results. So these online things are all available. And I would just suggest, make sure you put the hooks in. You may not look at the data right away. Like small business, I got a million things on my mind and I got so much going. Like, what would I do that data anyway? You're going to have some basic number, 2, 3, 4, 5 metrics you're going to look at that will give you a feel for what success would look like. Okay? And so you want to think about putting those hooks in, because one day you're going to wake up and say, you know what? We should measure that. Let's look at what the results of that looks like. And you're like, well, we don't have the data. Now you got to wait 9 months to a year before you get enough data to look at it. So think about getting the hooks in there, again, whether you look at it or not. A lot of free tools and some inexpensive ones to put in place on those, all the online stuff you're doing. I think as small businesses, the one thing we forget about is the offline, right? The offline stuff and measuring the time and or cost it takes to maybe acquire a new customer or to engage with someone. So imagine if I owned a gallery and Jennifer came into the gallery to look at art. You know, spent an hour the first visit, came back a second time, spent a second hour, maybe called, you know, the gallery to ask some questions about an artist or two, and then, you know, half hour on the phone, comes in the third time for another hour. So we spent about 3.5 hours with Jennifer coming into the gallery, and then she buys a $1,000 painting. So if our time was worth $100 an hour, we're going to do some quick math, it's early. So we spent $350, right, to acquire that customer with 3 visits plus the half hour on the phone at $100 an hour. And so sold it for $1,000, so we made $650, right? So we can start to look at some of those metrics. And then Jennifer puts it up on her wall. She has a bunch of friends over. A friend sees it and likes it, goes into the gallery, you know, shorter cycle within an hour maybe, buying that art. So now we're up to $450 cost and $2,000, you know, that was purchased. So we're at $1,550 profit over. We're going to get all confused on this math in a moment. So $450 and $1,550. So you can test this math if anyone has a calculator. And so it's really important to think about that. It's one thing to say, what's my time worth? But what's my investment to get that customer? But also anyone that works with you, right? So if I was the gallery owner and I had some staff that was, you know, kind of covering for me when I'm not there, if they saw Jennifer coming in that second time even, maybe the third time, you know, they're on their phones and they're disengaged and they're like, oh, tire kicker. You know, she's been here a couple times. But if they actually knew that it's that third visit plus that call, you know, that 3.5 hours investment is what drove the sale on average, then it's like, oh, we got to step up our game. Third visit in, you know, now's the time when they're, you know, getting ready to buy. So think about the offline things you do all day long and the time you're spending on them, and you'll see how much it's going to take you to maybe acquire a new customer, how long it takes to service an existing customer, how long it takes to service a very needy, you know, a needy customer. And sometimes we're going to find situations where we have to fire a customer because the sink in time isn't worth sort of the value of what they're bringing. And you have to think value not only what they're providing in terms of what they're spending with you, but their referrals and other things they're driving for you. And it's important to know in your business how much is being driven by the person buying direct from you and kind of reordering and upselling and doing that. But what else are they bringing to the table with referrals? So they may be really needy and expensive individually, but they're just driving a ton of people to you. So you just have to think about sort of what their value is overall. Okay? So the next one is around go-to-market. So in the case of Constant Contact, we were going to sell to small businesses, and the target market was really very small business. Walk down Main Street, Reno here, and all those businesses would be the target customer. 10 employees or less, in some cases 1 employee. And so, we heard early on from a lot of people, hey, there's no way, well, we heard a lot of things. There's no way, small business is going to use email marketing and, in the email for marketing purposes. There's no way you can sell to small businesses. The only ones that were successful at doing that were companies like Intuit and ADP, and you're 3 people in an attic. Like, this isn't going to happen. You can't do it. A lot of no's. And so, initially we thought about, if we can't go door to door, so it was me, myself, and I with a team of 3 going door to door, we can get somewhere, but we're not going to get real far, and it's not going to scale. Where could we scale this? And so it really centered around finding the channel and partnerships and other things in our business to succeed. And so, kind of your target customer being, that's sort of small business. You kind of know the market landscape of who they are and what verticals they're in, and sort of how you're slicing, which ones you're going after. You'll have your strategy for what you're going to offer them and how you're going to offer it, how they're going to get access to you. And of course, then comes into play a possible channel structure, which is where are those customers hanging out? So everyone in the room, I will tell you, we'll spend a little bit of this on the second half of the talk, but understanding that for all of you, there are probably 10 to 15 categories of small business organizations that you could team with, right? And we'll go through some examples later, but so there's 10 to 15 categories, and within each category there's going to be 10 to 15 key partners in the category that you could work with. So I'll give you one example. So associations and member orgs. Whatever it is you're offering, selling, there's the association of whatever you do, local, regional, national, member orgs centered around that, meetups and networking groups. Those are just kind of under one uber category of those association and member orgs. But you have access to all of those, which will get you to your target market. And so it's as simple as going and hanging out and work in the room. It's also the potential to get up on stage and do the quick little elevator pitch of what you do, and sometimes even doing more, where maybe you get to thought leadership and some other things where you're educating them on how to succeed using tools or services like yourself. So that's just one category out of the 15 or sort of 15 on average. So I challenge everyone to sort of start to think about where are your target customers hanging out, and what are those potential partner categories that you could sort of work with. So when we started Constant Contact, we were really, everything was like make decisions in a minute. Like if we couldn't make the decision in a minute, we had to move on. Like we just want to take a lot of time iterating on things, because we had to get, for example, get our offering stable enough to get it in the hands of small businesses to get feedback. Like a lot of people will say, oh, well, it's not ready. Like we need more time. Like if we just do these 5 more things, then we could bring to our target customer. You got to stop that. You got to get it out and you got to get feedback. And I would say when you do that, you don't want to go to friends and family. You don't want to go to customers that you've bought from or you know well. You want to go to total strangers. Because if you can do your elevator pitch, convince them to take your offering, and potentially spend money with you, then you're onto something. And they're going to give you brutal, honest feedback. So I went out to get 4. I started with, didn't have the number in my mind, but I landed 4 total stranger small businesses that took the earlier offering, who had to go for the ride with us, and it had bugs and it something wasn't working. But as they started to use it, we saw the initial sort of wide-eyed experience that they had for their goal. What were their goals? So their goals were things like, I want to stay top of mind with my current customers. I want to drive those customers back in. I want more revenue. I want the friends of those customers. I need new people coming in. Maybe they'll refer people. So we started to see those things happen with the offering. And so when we saw how we were able to help them with their goals, that's when we knew we were onto something. Regardless of what everyone said, that we were not going to be able to succeed, and no one's going to be able to do what we were doing. So we had those 4, right? Then immediately we went out to find the channels to where our target customers were hanging out. And so I mentioned in the opening, we had 8,000 channel partners. They have 8,000. I left officially April. So 8,000 channel partners or more today. So finding where they were hanging out. And so so I started calling out to the largest of partners. And here's another example where I'll say to somebody, who's that one person you want to partner with or get your offering in front of? And they'll tell me who it is. I'm like, have you called them? Oh, no. Not yet. We're not ready to call them. Again, situation where we've got to get you over that to call someone else first and then call them, but you've got to get in front of them. And so we started that, and we had success in landing some large partners. And of course, the first thing they're going to ask is, do you have references? So I'm like, I'll give you 3. So I gave them 3 references. They're like, do you have any more? I'm like, I'll give you 1 more. And no one asked for a 5th. So little inside secret here. And so the key thing is to, you get some early success. You use that as leverage to show whoever you're going to work with that if they could succeed, look what imagine what could all your customers, and in some cases thousands or hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of small businesses that we're working with those different partners. Make sense? All right. So the next one is around kind of wowing your customers or surprise and delight. What are the things that you're going to do to delight your customers? And so we're all customers sitting here. We all had some experience this morning going to get our coffees or breakfast or whatever we're doing, getting our gas or stopping in a store. We all have experiences. We have a certain expectation of what we look for. And so think about the situations where someone exceeded that, right? There's sort of a bar there that we expect. And if it's below the bar, what are the things we're going to do? We're going to put it out on social, or we might give them a bad rating and review, or never go there and maybe just quietly tell people, oh yeah, don't go there. They didn't smile, or they didn't do whatever you expected. And so when we think about the situations where someone exceeded it, then you say, okay, well, what's going to happen? You're going to go back. You're going to tell others. You're going to put it on social. You're going to give them a high rating and review, and however it is that you want to express, your gratitude for that wow moment. And so I'll give you a couple of examples. There's a local restaurant where I'm from Boston, and so we went into the restaurant, took some friends in. The general manager came over to the table. He knew my name because the reservation was under my name. He said, Alec, I'd like to welcome you to the restaurant. Who do we have here? So I introduced everyone at the table. And so, we ordered. He made some suggestions, and he kind of said, if you need anything, let me know. He leaves, our meal comes. He comes back over to check on that everything was to satisfaction. And so we leave the restaurant, and 5 days later, I get a handwritten note home, sent to my home. Imagine that. Someone wrote a note and sent it to me through the post office. Like, what are the odds of that happening today, right? So I get the handwritten note with a card with a cell phone number on it, and said, Alec, I hope you, and he named everyone at the table, had a wonderful meal. You ordered some great things, including, and he named some of the stuff we ordered, like very personalized, and said, here's my cell phone. If you need anything going forward, feel free to call. So it's like, and that's Aquitaine Bistro in the South End in Boston. If you ever go there. So sending in hundreds of thousands of people in there from around the world. But it's just one of those wow moments where you're like, okay, unexpected, incredible. The second one is I was invited to go out to the old downtown in Vegas to speak with an organization that was tied with Tony Hsieh, and who's the founder of Zappos. So I had the opportunity to take a private tour of Zappos. And if anyone goes out to Vegas, and if you love to gamble, great. Take some time to go to the old downtown and take a tour at Zappos. It's an incredible experience to just see, what they do and how they do it as a machine to just, assume that everyone that they pick up is the only person, that's important to them at that moment, and have a great customer experience. And so there's a lot of things about what they do and how they do it. But I took this tour, and we got to the customer success area, and there's all these people on the phone just nonstop talking to customers, and people were raising their hand with a card, and runners were grabbing the cards and putting them in boxes, and then this one woman raised her hand with 2 cards, grabbed them both, and so they were going to say, well, the tour is going to continue. Can we move on? I said, well, I'll just stay here for a little while. And can I just understand, what's the deal with the cards? And so, they expect that everyone on the phone, within a minute, makes a connection with the person they're talking to. So whatever they're ordering, something about what they're ordering to, something about, what's the experience that they're ordering the items for. There's all kinds of things that they try to connect with. And in this one particular instance, I said, well, what was the 2 cards? So we went over to the woman that took the call, and so she explained, a woman had called in, and she had a wedding in 5 days for her best friend. She had ordered shoes from someone else. They're supposed to match the dress, didn't match the dress, which I think is a big deal. I don't know. Anyone? Yeah. And so, panic set in. So she called Zappos to try to get a replacement pair of shoes to match the dress. They found the exact shoe. But while she was speaking to the woman on the phone, she was hoarse and coughing, and she was just really struggling with a cold and a throat issue and whatever. So the one card was a note to write to her. So glad we could accommodate getting the shoes. You're going to look great, and have fun at Betty's wedding. And then the other card was a note for a runner to go to the store and get lozenges and honey, and all kinds of stuff to help her, with a note saying, hope this will, get you so you can be, cheering on your friend at her wedding and be able to talk and so forth. So it made an incredible connection, and of course, just creating a wow moment, right? So now, when you call, don't pretend you have a cough and, just to get some free lozenges. They'll be on to you, because I've sent hundreds of thousands of people their way. So, but the thing is, it's just thinking about what can you do to set yourself apart. And it doesn't take a lot, and it usually doesn't take money. It's just something in the experience, from as simple as just telling a customer how much you care, or treating them special, right? So this is not Bill Clinton, You didn't get this wasn't a pre-job before presidency, but this is the Publishers Clearinghouse. So I thought this had gone away, but as I go around the country, I see commercials and, fill out your forms and win all kinds of money. And here's Glenda back in the day getting the oversized check for $10K with the prize patrol and flowers and, cameras and, the van full of people cheering. And so, if this happened today, Glenda would be immediately on social, promoting how, look, I just won and you got to do this. It was so easy. And, of course, back in the day, it was all, offline. But just creating a wow moment. So getting someone to do something, creating it, and then capturing that and sharing it. And so Glenda would share it, but also Publishers Clearinghouse would show how they've, just changed the life of a family in the, middle America, right? So just a good example. And so I haven't made these shirts yet, but I want a commitment from all of you. When I put them up on Amazon, you're all going to buy them and you're going to wear them and live by the mantra, right? Keep calm and delight the customer. So the next pillar is really around humanizing your voice, from the business perspective. The nice thing is, as we're all small businesses, we have the flexibility to put personality in our business. If you're a big competitor, you would have all kinds of things that you'd have to, triple check every word you wrote. The lawyers got involved. It wasn't just a marketing team writing copy. You had to really sort of follow some rules or guidelines around, what you say. As a small business, you have a lot more flexibility. You can have a personality, and you could put your voice forward, and it could be your voice. It could be, fellow employees. It could be customers if it's a nonprofit, recipient of services or volunteers. So there's an opportunity to kind of have a personality around that. When we started Constant Contact, the fourth person in the attic that joined was a dear friend who I've recently teamed up on another project with. And so we trademarked her title was Email Marketing Diva. So we had a trademark title, and she was writing our hints and tips and our newsletters and all the sort of things that were customer facing, and started to put a personality about our company and what we were all about in those writings, and we had some fun with it and so forth. And so she did that for over 10 years, and it just sort of set the stage in the early days for kind of what's our culture and how do we want to be known, and how do we want people to remember us, and the experience we want them to have, and thinking about the things that you're doing. And it's easy to really humanize it so that your customers get to know you as a business. And it's not this behind the veil, or the wall, of the business, but you're out there and they get to know you. And you can have some fun with it. A lot of people will do things on Facebook and other tools with open-ended questions, or do you like A or B, and start to engage the audience to get feedback and things like that. So that's me on the left. This is really around perception. Look big, act big, become big. So when we were three people in the attic, we had to do anything we could do to look bigger than life. When no one ever came to the attic, it was a mess. Occasionally we used my dining table in Boston for meetings. But what we sought out to get was, friends were all working for high-powered law firms and accounting firms, and mahogany, beautiful conference room overlooking Boston Harbor. And we'd beg and borrow to get a conference room for an hour, and someone would want to meet with us, and we're like, oh, we're going to happen to be downtown. Why don't you visit this one international place, and we'll be on the top floor, penthouse. We have a conference room, for other things. So why don't we meet there? And so again, it's just perception. Wow, and of course, then the friend that would invite us in, we had to be situated so they could see us, so they could tell us, get out. Someone has a meeting, you're done. But you got to work with what you had, right? So you kept your meetings to very prompt time. But there are other things. So we're often calling out to people. We're in today's day and age, especially the millennials. Everything is short snippets of content, 147 character. But when you're out and you're talking to folks, like partners, for example, today they don't want to necessarily always see you unless it's local. We'll meet face to face. But I've closed the largest partnerships in the world and never met the people, because they want to sort of do it, on the phone and remote, video conferencing, whatever it is. Oftentimes they're sitting there saying, well, if they fly in, we got to host them for dinner, we got to take them to breakfast, we got to pick them up at the airport, like we got to invest all this time. Just want to have a 2-hour meeting, kind of see if there's a meeting of the minds. So if you do those sessions over the phone, the first thing is professionalize what you're doing. So it might be your first call to a partner, just like we did. You put a small PowerPoint together with your brand and have things like this is who we are, this is what we do, here's how we help our target customer, here's what our target customer is saying, here's how we could potentially work with you as a partner. So you sort of just come up with 4, 5, 6 slides, professionalize it. And then when you get on the phone, say, look, I put a little slide deck together. Can we maybe start there just, to give you a little bit about, who we are and what we do? They always say yes, so you deliver that. So in professionalizing what you're saying, of course, then you finish the call, you send them a PDF of it, and then they're going to revisit it before they may talk to other team members or share it with other team members. And so the key thing here is to, you're avoiding the telephone game. Like, you told them something on the phone, they interpreted it a certain way, then they reinterpret and send, and give it to someone else, and it may not even be close to the original message. And then what happens is then they'll like, oh, we don't need that. That doesn't really make that much sense. Or it could have just been the person telling the story, just didn't do you justice. And so then the next thing is they'll say, let's have a team call. So on the second call, you'll say, look, we have this PowerPoint, and I'm sure you probably shared it, some of you saw it. Maybe we could just kind of go over it and level set for everyone, what we're offering. Do you mind if we go through that first? They always say yes. And then you're driving the conversation again, but you're putting your best foot forward to look really professional. Okay? The other thing around perception is that, as I mentioned earlier, I talk to a lot of people, like, who's that one person you want to get on the phone and talk to? And they'll always hesitate. Not yet. Well, I'm going to call them in a week, and they put it, put a little box that call this partner in a week. And then it just drops, eventually they throw that page out, put another one. Oh, I'm going to call that partner again. Let me call them in a week. You just avoid. You're avoiding it. And so the thing I would just say is, you can hear through the phone if you're hesitant, right? And so you want to make that call when you're at your best. So call a loved one, hug a baby, kiss a loved one, call your best friend, sing your favorite song out loud, and then get on the phone and call them. Like, whatever it's going to take you to get you fired up, to be like on your game to make the call, because they'll hear it right through the phone. And the minute you have anything in your business that you did that was something to celebrate or you're really happy about, make a call. Like, just don't sit there like, let me put my feet up, and kind of, let's bask in the moment. That's your opportunity to do another one, right? Because you're now on a roll. So I always say, like, accomplishments are something to build on, not rest on. So the minute you have one of those success moments, capitalize on it, because it will lead to something else, bigger and better. Okay? And so the other thing I'd say, just hesitance in general, even when you're out, like if you're not really comfortable about, we're just getting going and we're kind of finding our way for what our elevator pitch is and how we're going to present it. Whatever you say it with confidence, right? Don't hesitate, because everyone will hear it and they're going to question, are you really serious about the business? Or you don't even really know what you're doing? Like, just say it with confidence. It may not be exactly right, or you might have messed it up, or whatever. Just be confident in whatever you're doing, okay? Because it will come back in spades with opportunity. All right, so everyone raise your right hand. Immediately and effective immediately are now dubbed thought leaders. Okay? Congratulate yourself. It's amazing you accomplished that so fast. So the reason I say that is that you're all here for a reason. You're in business to disrupt something that already exists, or you have a cool new thing that doesn't exist today. You're doing something different. And it could be just around execution or what, it doesn't matter. You're setting out to do something better, bigger, better, faster, different, whatever that is. And if you could think of ways to package that up with best practices or thought leadership and what makes you unique and what makes you different with regard to how you're doing those things, That's the thing that people will gravitate to. So it's one thing to have an offering and just say, I want to promote it. Let's promote it. Oh yeah, we'll promote it over here, and we'll promote it there, and we'll just get all these people, just promoting it. Well, eventually they'll go numb to promotional related things, and it's more about how are you packaging up your messaging in a way that will resonate with them, so that they'll say, okay, hey, if I use this or I do this or I work with them, it's going to take my business to the next level. So you just need to think about how you're sort of packaging it around best practices and thought leadership. The other thing is it's going to get you to audiences that you wouldn't have gotten to before, because there are many organizations that will say, we don't want anything promotional. If I had $1 for every time I heard, no vendors are allowed to speak, but we want you to speak because you're going to empower our audience with your thought leadership and best practices. And we set out to do that as a business. And in fact, at the peak, we were doing 7,000 thought leadership workshops around the world in a year. And we hit our, about a year ago or so, we hit our millionth person that we educated for free on thought leadership. And so there are a lot of people that are out there that are hungry to learn, how am I going to benefit from this? Like, what's this going to do for my business? And so that's your subtle commercial for, okay, you saw what we can do for you, and if you want help in doing that, hey, we have the tools and services to help you with it. So it's really taking a different tact for positioning your messaging and what you're bringing to the table, into how you can sort of pull people into the fold. There's some people that just need to hear what's in it for me before they're going to want to hear a commercial about what you're offering them. And so just think about how you can package up what you're doing. And I'll also say there are a lot of publications and a lot of folks you'll engage with that will want to talk about your business, but don't want promotion. They don't want anything promotional. Like, they go numb to, like, signed our 100th customer and our 50th partner and our this and our that. It sort of doesn't really excite a lot of people. But if you could talk about the thought leadership, they'll take that and want to tell it to their audience. And earlier I mentioned the association of member orgs. They are really hungry for that thought leadership and the stuff to their audience, because they're looking for value add. Everyone that's part of that organization paid a member fee. And they're always looking for things like, what can we offer our members that will help them succeed? And hey, if we brought it to the table, they'll see more value in their membership and want to stay part of the organization. So you could fall into that category. And in some cases, when in working with folks like that, they're not always looking for, they're fine to just take if you're on the editorial side versus advertising, like membership and editorial versus just trying to get you to join as a member. You'll find that sometimes they just want you to come in through sharing your thought leadership and helping their audience before asking you to become a member. Okay? So the next one's around feedback. So feedback's a gift. There's so many different ways we can get feedback. There's online ways, formally, surveying people and capturing information from sort of online. There's offline ways, simply asking, how did we do, or how was your experience, or whatever it may be. There are some that are formal and informal. So survey online would be formal. Asking someone face to face would be considered informal. And so you want to try to put that in play wherever possible. How many have heard of the Net Promoter Score? Okay, about 20%. Just Google Net Promoter Score, and you'll see that there's a specific question you can ask folks, which is, how likely are you to refer us to someone else? So that takes someone from, I'm a user and I'm a customer, to, I really like what they're doing and I feel comfortable telling someone else. And then they give you a way to calculate how to figure out your Net Promoter Score. So I would just say, when you look it up, don't worry about anyone else's score. FedEx at 35 and this one at this, and it doesn't matter, because you're going to come up with your own score and you're going to test that over time to see, is your Net Promoter Score for you and the things you're doing, how you're helping your customers, is it going up? Is it staying the same or going down? And oftentimes you'll find that this and customer satisfaction in general, you've done something with your offering. You've increased your pricing. You've put something out that didn't work as well as it was working before. Or you launched something and you didn't really give them, you didn't inform ahead of time so they knew what changes were coming. And now all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, this does not look like anything I've seen, I was using before. You don't want to be startling them with anything. And so you want to think about, those things as it relates to, normal course of business, but you'll be capturing your customer satisfaction and your Net Promoter Score, and just seeing kind of, are they on a happy path? All my customers, or the majority of them, on a happy path, moving along. I would say the one group a lot of people forget about are your current customers. Like, oh, well, we have them. They're already in-house. Like, let's go get new ones. So we spend all this time going to get net new without really thinking about our existing customers. And oftentimes when we start to think about them, it's too late. Because we've either lost them, or they're fading out, or they just felt they weren't, out of sight, out of mind. Like, haven't heard from that company in a while. And so you just need to think about, how you're going to engage with them. But just keep asking the questions, and certainly weave in that one question about the Net Promoter Score, which will be really helpful, because feedback is such a gift, good or bad. Someone at a talk last week was like, well, what do you do when someone goes on social and really complains about you? So the first thing is you walk away from the computer, take a couple of laps around the house or whatever you have to do, go for a jog, but walk away from the keyboard. Because what will happen is that some other people will, potentially will step in and speak on your behalf. We'll talk about those people in a moment. But the key thing is that's a moment where you can shine. Like, hey, we didn't do the best that we normally do. That's not our normal experience. Let's go offline and we're going to make it up to you, or we're going to kind of work through this and make sure we take care of you. Everyone else seeing that will be like, okay, this is a good company. They care about folks, and we all know not every experience is going to be a great one. And it's what do you do with it, when it happens. And so that's where you can step up as a business. I've seen so many where they're like, I'm going to challenge this person. They came in, they took forever to order. They you got the owner saying like, whatever, and then I can point to those same businesses that are no longer in business. And it's because if you have to, customer does come first to a certain point, and you need to figure out how you're going to sort of service them, especially in that time when you've let them down. And you can shine when you do it. Okay? So I was just talking about what happens when you step away. This is kind of the cradle to rave strategy. So initially, we treat everyone equally. Whatever level they're at, however long they've been with, whatever they've spent with us, whatever they didn't spend but they're hanging out and just getting to know us, you're going to sort of work them through a continuum where they're just, sort of a suspect turns into a prospect, turns into a customer, a long-standing repeat customer, and then a raving fan. Like, those are just some examples. But they're going to work through this continuum, and you might treat people differently, like your raving fans or your VIP customers that repurchase and buy from you, reorder and do different things, or tell others and connect you to other people. So initially we treat them all equally, but think about how you might start to segment them. But it's this raving fan group that if you walked away from that keyboard, they're going to step in on your behalf and comment like, hey, I've been doing business with them for years. They're a rock star, and that's not the norm. And they'll take care of you, believe me. You'll have a great experience with them, or whatever they're going to say. So you could walk away and you're going to start to see some of that happen. And that's more valuable than anything. And then you get a chance to step in and make it right. But at least you know that you have wowed somebody and taken care of them to a point where they're a raving fan and they want to tell folks. And so I'd like to tell you and admit in public that I am a connector. And I'm here to admit it. So if I have a good experience with something, I always seem to find a way to weave it into a conversation and tell someone else about it. And it's so random. Like, had a plumber to the house. I had this incredible experience. 2 plumbers, couldn't fix something. And this guy, he took all this extra time, fixed it, didn't even really charge me for all his time. I'm like, I'll pay you for your time, and this is a rock star. He said, no, it was good for me to work with you to figure it out. And of course, like 2 days later, I'm at a networking event. Someone's talking about a plumber. I'm like, I got the guy for you. Like it just happens within like 4 or 5 days. I'm connecting whoever I just had that experience with someone else. So a lot of folks are out there like me that and will admit that they're connectors to just talk about those experiences. And I want to reward the people that took care of me. So think about what you can do to move people through this life cycle to being raving fans. All right? So Letterman retired, David Letterman. So that was 10 if you were counting. So he's gone, and I have 2 more because these were they were on the cusp of didn't want to cut something else out. So we'll give you a couple more quick ones. So the first one is around just celebrating all wins, small and large. We're all sitting here, with like the big goal that we're after, which could be a year from now, 5 years, whatever it is. Like I'm going to just, work myself to retirement in 5 years. Like you could have that goal and sort of the vision of where you want to be with this, which is great. Everyone should have that. But the thing you want to think about is what are you celebrating today or several times in a day? Those little teeny things that show success. So when we started the company, early on, it was in the fall, football season. So we had a foam core football field with Velcro. So we had the Velcro on the football. And we started on the 4-yard line. So 100 yards on the field. We had 4 was representing 4 customers. And we got our 5th one, we moved it to 5, and we went all the way down. We were ringing the bell every time and celebrated across the company for everyone who was involved in getting that customer. So if you're answering the phones or you're the admin at the front desk or you're an engineer or you're whatever, marketing, you messaging, what everyone was doing, like we were all celebrating. So we moved it down to 100, and then we started back again, and every yard was 10. So we went down, in tens, and then everyone was 100, and then we got to 1,000, and then we had to move to dashboards because it was too tough to keep manually. So we had around the company, we had dashboards everywhere showing what each group was doing to delight our customers. What are the things that they were focused on that was going to help our customers? And we found it in every group. So whether it was call handling, people calling in for support, needing help. We didn't care how long the call was. What was the success and completion of the call? So they would do a survey after the call, and if the ratings, 90+%, we would sort of be living at, we would always, track, success to satisfying the customer. And then telling all those stories, and we had WOW awards to employees that it's a Friday night, we're shutting down, support at 11 p.m., someone stayed till 2 in the morning because that small business needed to have something out before the morning event that they were hosting, and they had some problems, creating a campaign or whatever it was. So there were always these examples of folks that went above and beyond, and we recognize them internally. So it's not just the wins of the business, but the wins of those that are working with you that go the extra mile. And so we had it where employees can give them to each other. It wasn't just someone up atop looking down saying, "Oh, that person did a great job." Like let their peers and others call them out for that great effort, so that everyone got recognized at every level. So the last one is have fun. So we took Halloween very seriously, and we had one category for costume that was best use of what we did by day. So I want to show you my costume. You have to tell me what I am. Come on, we're halfway there. Social Butterfly, there's a winner. Congratulations. Social Butterfly, and that, my friends, is an award-winning costume. Got the trophy, baby. All right, thank you. I couldn't find the headgear, otherwise I would have wore it today. So the other thing I said early on is I'm a drummer. Love to get out and play whenever possible. And so I actually went into the studio. I wrote a song about Constant Contact. Stole the beat from Grand Funk Railroad. So they were pleased with it. They don't know it, but I'm sure they'll be pleased with it. And so I wrote the song, grabbed some coworkers, went into the studio, recorded the song, then went down on Main Street and brought our customers into the video. And of course, what happened? They were sharing it all over the place to, like, hey, we made it into the Constant Contact song video. And I then did a second one and performed it a couple years ago in Vegas for our partners, and performed with a Vegas band, a top Vegas band, to do the song for our partner conference. And so, again, having fun and finding ways to to just celebrate internally and externally what we're doing. All right. Don't be sorry. That's okay. All right. So the number one question I get all the time is, so what's next? So I personally like to look at markets that are $1 billion or more that need disruption. So I'm just throwing that out there. So it's a tall order, but I'm very fortunate to be teaming with, so we have a think tank of some of the brightest, most incredible engineers. So my two co-founders are just rock star engineers, and have patents on all different products, can look at something and say, yeah, I know how to make that better. And then we set out to do that. And so we've had some success in doing that. Two of us involved for the last 8 years, all three of us the last 3 years. So I'll just give you a couple of examples of stuff we're working on. All right? So the first one is, so this is called a linear actuator, or a ball screw. So the cylinder just rotates back and forth on the screw. It's used in things like cameras, drones, planes, electric steering columns of cars, all kinds of uses, thousands and thousands of uses. There was one particular use where there was a forensic optic camera that was on a computer-manned 4x4 vehicle that was policing 2 kilometers of the roadways in Afghanistan and other locations to heat seek and try to find someone who's coming to the road to drop a roadside bomb. So the one thing that was failing in this, and by the way, let me just back up. So the vehicle could throw a grenade within a 3-foot radius, could shoot a gun, speak in local language, could see through walls. It's incredible machinery that the government and General Dynamics had built. And so the camera couldn't focus because the ball screws that were in the market, actually it's called backlash, but when it switches direction, it stops. So if you have a fancy camera, it stops for a second before it switches direction. And it needed something to be fluid, so it was just fluidly moving back and forth. And so they came and gave the spec to my co-founder. He said, give me 6 weeks, I'll figure something out. We have machined equipment, so we machined a prototype, and he sent that back. And this has actually stopped roadside bombs. So, yeah, thank you. And now we're in a bunch of tests and pilots with all different industries and uses. So the second one is, think about the Reese's peanut butter cup. You have chocolate and peanut butter, you put them together. Think of a walking cane and a reaching grabber, that folks use. Whether you're aged, injured from, or recovering from injury or from a surgery, or if you're disabled, there's need for either the cane or the reaching grasper or both. In my mom's case, she had knee surgery, was using the cane, and had a grasper in each room. But none of them were really that effective and good quality. So we set out to create the best cane and the best grasper in the market, throw them together, which is the handycane.com. Brought it to market about 8 months ago, have won awards for Innovative Product of the Year and Best Provider's Choice Award, a couple of different conferences, and have had success in solving the problem of, it's fine if you're in your house and you have a cane and a grasper, but what do you do when you leave the house? So you can have your freedom and independence back. You can have your mobility. You're not going to be compromised when you drop your keys, or you go to a supermarket and you try to get a can off a shelf or whatever it may be. So it's precise to pick up a piece of paper, a paper clip, a coin, all the way up to, jar, can, bottle, with what kind of the 5+ pounds, around 5 pounds of weight that you can support yourself. So that's the second product that we've launched. And the third one, we've done a feasibility study. We haven't launched yet, but we're working on an arthrectomy device that will, through a catheter and a guide wire, will go into the vessels to take out, break up and emulsify the plaque and actually extrude it while letting blood flow still go, so there's no sort of pause in the blood flow, which would be a replacement to stents. All right. So that's underway, and feasibility study looking good so far. So those are just three of the things. There's some others, but those are some big ones. Yeah, so disrupting big markets. We're going to save the Q&A for, we're going to have a sort of follow-on interactive talk after this, but if you want sort of a worksheet around the pillars, all you have to do is pull out your phone and just type the 21777, and if you type the word pillars, it'll give you a link, give you your first name, last name, email, and you'll get to a page where you can download the worksheet. You can give me some feedback because it's a gift about the talk, or things what resonated, or other things you maybe would want to hear. And there's also links to the couple of music videos that I mentioned. So there you go. So keeping on time, I'd like to thank you. I know we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to get into sort of a strategic deep dive of just some of the things in sort of mission and vision and your target customer. And so we're going to kind of work with all of us, hands-on, if you will. So I want to thank you for your time. Okay.